All right, it is Love Right Create, and I am Kallie Ross, and we are here for another week of discussion and arguing, and maybe a little fist fighting if we were in the same room. I am here with Morgan Wylie,
Woohoo!
and I am also here with Gaby Robbins.
Hey.
And tonight we are actually talking about puzzling it all together because the last 2 weeks we've been talking about plotting and subplotting. So if you're watching this and you haven't watched those hangouts, you might want to go back and watch them because we kind of hashed out a whole lot of stuff as far as plotting and subplotting. And tonight we're going to talk about how on earth do you put all of that story together after you have thought of everything you possibly can think of in reference to the plot and the subplots. Now, ladies, how did you do with your subplotting this week? That was kind of your assignment. Gaby, did you get to any of it?
Yeah, I mean, I sat down. I kind of did what Morgan did, what she sent today, and just did it like in a spreadsheet, and just tried my best to kind of list the characters that I knew were going to have a subplot. And yeah, so I tried to get it done. I don't know how complete because I wasn't quite sure how far you went with it, but I sat down and I tried to do some of the things I saw online. So yeah, I did it.
Cool. Okay, what about you, Morgan?
I did it. I'm not sure, like Gabby said, I'm not sure if how in depth mine is. I have a feeling that right now it's kind of a surface, maybe a little vague, even subplot as I was trying to kind of get through each. But yeah, I did it.
Okay, so I'm going to dig a little deeper because I feel like that was so vague. Come on, people. I would love to know how many characters did you subplot for? Because last week we did talk about how subplotting really is more character driven than anything. So how many subplots or characters did you work on when you were working on your subplot? That's my first question. Morgan, go.
Well, I think our homework was to do two, and I started with two, but then I kind of just kept going. But like I said, mine are slightly just surfacey, but I did one, two, three, four, five, six for sure, and I kind of touched on a couple others. But like I said, they're simple.
Right. Okay. Gaby?
I did like pretty more detail, which were the ones that I've been thinking a long time. Was one, two, three, four. Did about six all the way through, or five all the way through, like all the acts, in the conclusion. But I listed out one, two, three, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, there was a good dozen characters that I thought could possibly have subplots. I wanted to just start thinking that, and even if it didn't become a subplot, I could use that for background for them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I even listed my two main characters to see if there were some subplots. Kind of the romance of it would be a subplot, but I wasn't sure, and I thought I needed to actually sit down and spend some good time deciding if I wanted it to be that way. So yeah, there's a good dozen characters I have, and then about 5 or 6 that I actually, got through. I think like Morgan says, it's more of me kind of just storyboarding that plot without a lot of detail, but just the things that I want to definitely hit on is how I did it.
Okay. So let me ask you guys then. When you were working on subplots, were there any subplots that carried over or through the book you're working on into the next book? Maybe you haven't fleshed it all out yet, but you know that it's something that will not come to a conclusion in the book you're currently writing, and it will hopefully be or see some resolution, at least in the next book or by the end of the series. Did that happen for either of you?
Yes, I think quite a few of mine carry through, if not most.
Yeah. Well, and it is a series. Like, that's the thing I think all three of us can say our current work in progress is a series. And I think that in my case, working on subplots turned what I thought was a 2-book series into at least a 3-book, if not a 4-book series. Like, I am kind of freaking out this week. So when I started to puzzle my plot and subplots together, mind you, I'm already 25% into this book, I had a mini meltdown Friday night, I guess you could call it that, because I totally quit. Like, Morgan was like, hey, let's do some writing sprints. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I started puzzling things together, and I was like, holy crap, I have to rewrite 25,000 words. What is wrong with me? Like, it was bad. It was so bad. And not in a bad way bad, but in a good way bad, because it was so good, the stuff I was coming up with. I knew I had to put it in there so that it could be fluid. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself because we're talking about puzzling it all together, and I just made it sound like I puzzled it all together Friday night and had a meltdown. But as far as taking what you guys worked on with subplots and what you've already written, because this is something we're kind of coming in a little later than someone that might be taking a class and writing a book might do. And we all have words written down. So with these subplots, is there anything new that's come up while you've been working on these that you're going to have to put in that was not there before? I'm going to go with you first, Morgan, because you've got a whole, like, buttload of books working that you've already written.
Buttload. Well, I had a couple new things come up that I will be adding in that I have to near the end of the book, so I had not gotten that far yet, that I hadn't been thinking about before. As far as adding it into what I've already written, I do have one thing for sure, and maybe another thing that I will go back and fit in, but I don't think it will be that big of a deal to insert it. It won't be a reworking necessarily. It will be more of just an add-in or a before something else that's already happened. So I don't foresee that as being at least too challenging in my mind right now. But so kind of.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. That doesn't sound like completely changing a person and their senses and then having to rewrite their chapters. Well,
but also remember, what you're working on is a series, but it's also a new first book of a series, and whereas I'm in the third book of something that's already somewhat established. So yeah, if I were to rework a whole bunch, that would cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, oh, I totally get that, and that's one thing that I had to fight with myself on, because it was like, well, I already have this much written, so maybe I should just stick with it. And then I was like, no, I want it to be the best thing ever. So I've got to do it. But Gabby, what about you? Because I know you have a picture of everything in your head of what you want all of this to be, and I'm wondering if anything was reworked in this subplotting exercise.
It made things a little bit clearer. I kind of feel like, I hate to say this, but I kind of get pantsers, because I feel like the more I'm doing this, as I go along, I'm like, oh, like when I'm plotting out a character and his motives and stuff, especially for one of my characters who I was a little hung up about the way he responded to something that happened at the beginning of the book. And like I said, I keep rethinking all this stuff, and I think a lot of it is because I haven't gone deep enough into plotting. That when I was doing it, I was like, oh, because he could have this thing, and then that could be his thing. Like, it totally helped flesh it out more, which makes me feel so much better about the character. So yeah, I will have to go back a tiny bit and the way he responded, because I wasn't completely sold on that at the beginning. But I feel like it's giving me depth that I felt like I was missing before. So there'll be some reworking, and I think I've already knew that that was going to happen. But I think it's going to help me forward, because I'll feel like I won't be writing and be like, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with this. It'll be a little bit more planned out. I also did realize, like you said, if some of the subplots would run into the next book, and definitely that's happened. And it's great to kind of flesh it out a little bit more so that I can be putting those Easter eggs in there that I love so much, so that all the books connect. So yeah, it's definitely been really helpful for that. I won't have to rework a ton. I mean, it's just giving me more depth to add to it.
Right, and I think that's important. I've learned that you have to stay positive so that you do not overwhelm yourself and want to throw up. So
Yes.
just keep that in mind. If you go through these exercises that we've been talking about the last few weeks, you will not die if everything changes. It will be okay. And I found a nice compromise to rewriting 25,000 words. So with that, I would like to discuss a little bit about how you plan to take maybe the worksheets that you were doing for plotting and the worksheets that you were doing for subplotting, and how you're going to be putting those together, or if you are, like if you're going to just have them in a notebook so you can reference them as you're writing. Is it something that you're planning to make an outline from chapter to chapter with? How do you think you're going to approach all of this new information in detail? Morgan, what do you think you're going to do?
Well, my initial instinct, reaction, whatever, to it is to just keep it all together in my notebook and reference it. However, I think I would kind of like to try putting it either into some kind of an outline, or I'm feeling a need for Post-it notes, so I have a feeling I might be doing a wall collage of some sort to at least visualize it out a little bit more. So I kind of want to try something. I figured this is all new. I'm just, going for it, and so I might as well try something new. I do wish that I had done this more in depth with book 1, So it's, as I'm getting a little deeper into it in book 3, I do wish that I had gone, had done that, but, hindsight.
Well, I'm feeling your pain on that one. Like, I feel like that I wish I had done this with Descent, and that it's going to be interesting to do it when I write the second book after I finish this one. So I totally feel your pain on that one. Gaby, what about you? How are you going to approach this from here on out?
Sure. I feel like it's helping me to, I feel like it's a really good thing to just kind of get in your mind, so it's an established part of your story already. And I would imagine, and obviously who knows, but I would imagine that once I flesh it all out, if I have it there for reference, when I get to those bits where I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about Neo, or he's saying something, or something's happening, that I can pull that out and kind of reference those specific issues or those specific things I want them to develop. And I think that might be a great reference point for when I sit down and write again. Like, we always talk about getting refreshed and having to reread what you've written before, but it's also kind of a good place to kind of just look back and go, okay, I'm in the second act, and I need to remember that these things need to be intersecting at this point. But another thing I wanted to remind us all is, I know, like you said, just to have a good attitude and to be positive. I remember reading a few authors talk about how they've gotten through entire drafts of a book and have to go back. And when they go back and redo it, just how many scenes and things they see are superfluous. I can't say that word.
Superfluous.
and not unnecessary, or they just realize they were rabbit trailing. But because you're in the midst of it, you're just like, but I want this to happen, or I want, and then they go back and they redo it, you know, and like obviously it's never ideal to have to do that, but if you think about presenting something, you know, especially your first book, you want it to be as good as it can be. And so knowing that, you know, published authors who have best-selling hits do that, that they even have to go back and, you know, edit themselves and give it another try, I think is encouraging, because then you just realize, you know, whatever it takes to get what you really want out there, that's what you should do, type of thing, and not to be discouraged by having to, you know, maybe write the book or 25,000 words, like, which is a big deal. So
Yeah. Well, I came up with a little something, and I am not sure if anyone will want me to share it, but if they do, I will, because I'm a good friend. But when I was thinking about tackling plots and subplots, and you guys know what kind of outliner I am, I thought, man, wouldn't it be so cool to be able to outline chapter by chapter and include notes on plots and subplots. And I really feel like that when I have outlined in the past that I've done that to a certain extent, but I haven't done it in great detail. So I came up, I'm going to show you a blank one first. I came up with a worksheet, and essentially it starts out with a little chapter heading. You can put the chapter on there, the number, and it says outline plotting. Obviously, character's point of view, it could be that it's omniscient or third person. But then plot points, I have for that chapter a space that you can list. And then below that, the step or main character's action towards the resolution of the story. But I always feel like there has to be like a call to action in every chapter, or a decision that's made, like something that kind of anchors the reader, that, or not even anchors, that's not the right word, that makes the reader feel like that the story's moving forward. That's what I'm looking for. And then underneath that, subplot points, like things, and in this area, I've actually filled out a couple of these, and it's actually in where I've put a character's name and then what happens to them, other than obviously what's going on in the main plot with the characters. So I don't know if it's too detailed or if it's too much work for some people. For me, I think it will help to rein in my plot ideas and my subplot ideas, and it will help me to see them in a timeline through the book, not necessarily a timeline with dates. But I think it'll help me stay on track after all of this work. I just don't want to miss anything that I've already thought up, and it's on like the side of a worksheet, or you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So,
That's
that's my point.
Yeah, very cool.
But anyway, so essentially what you're doing is you're turning something like this with all of your plotting stuff, because this is what mine looks like. It's like an umbrella with the main plot and all the little subplots and stuff. And then it'll be looking like this, where I filled it out for that chapter there. It's all blurry, but that's good, because then you can't see what it's about. It's a surprise.
It's cool.
Okay. So, do y'all have any other tips as far as puzzling it together? I think that this is like an ongoing process, the puzzling part at least. We're going to figure out really soon if it works or if it doesn't work. And I'm just going to be honest that for me, on Friday night, it was not working. I wanted to, well, I did. I turned everything off and just like zoned out watching television. I was like, I can't do this. It's all different now. And so, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
It's okay. I mean, I'm starting to get to where I understand how writers can get so down on themselves or frustrated or overwhelmed. And I feel like I'm one of the club. I'm one of the cool kids now that has a hard time with their story.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about subplots, like I started realizing when I was writing names down, about who could have a subplot. Like, do you feel like there are times where there's, like, how do you know, I guess just with the feel of the story, I think I just get freaked out that there's going to be too many. So if you flesh out all that information, obviously doesn't have to be included, but are there any rules of thumb for subplots? Like, have you guys come across anything like that to know whether or not, you know, like some major do's and don'ts? You know what I mean? I haven't seen anything like that.
I've only read a few articles that suggest 2 to 4 subplots where, like, you know, in addition to your main plot. But I think it's so that your, you know, reader's not overwhelmed. But I also had a conversation with another writer last week about how they read the Game of Thrones, and that's like subplot plethora galore. You know, like it's like they throw a character at you, they go through something, and then they die. You know, so I've never read the books, I've never watched the TV show. But I think that if it's done well, that it shouldn't matter how many. But I also think that if you're using a character to make a point or to assist your main character, it doesn't have to be that sub-character has a subplot. It's just that you're using them in your main plot. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it could become very overwhelming if you feel like that 12 characters in your story have to have something crazy happen to them. I think about it, and I'm just going to revert back to Harry Potter because that's what we do here. When it comes to Tonks and Lupin, you don't know everything that happens to them. It's not spelled out for you. It's even assumed in a lot of cases. You don't know about the interaction between them. You actually see more, I think, in the movies than you do in reading the books.
Right.
And look at the kind of following that they have. I mean, those two characters. And so I think that as far as subplots go, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like this little quirky story that happens along the same timeline, but you don't spell everything out for the reader. It's a subplot that it's very bookend. I mean, they kind of get thrown in there every now and then, but it's not anything where you have to know everything that happens to them. And I think that in a lot of books, there are characters like that, where they're supporting characters. They're there to assist and to help the story move along for your main character, and things happen to them because they're people in your book. But it's not that you have to tell everything that happens to them.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I have a lot of characters, so.
Yes, and I feel like I do too. I mean, I feel like that I, as an author, have to know about them, and I have to know their background and where they're coming from and why they might respond a certain way. But it's one of those things that I hate to do, but I have to do, and it's to pull back sometimes on the information that you're giving the reader. Yeah. It's one of those things where you don't have to know everything about a character.
Got it.
Darn it. We work on them so hard, and we feel like we feel like we know them, and then we don't get to put all their stuff in there. They just die, you know, or they just are used as a pawn for something. Gabby. Listen, Gabby, you have to have characters like that. They're pawns. You like reel the reader in, like, oh look, they're so sweet, and then they're dead. Gabby, you've got to write that kind of character in your book. I just feel it. There's got to be a muse or two that die.
There are, but I can't. It's so hard. It's really hard.
You just got to do it. You just got to do it. You got to kill them. And you got to tweet when you do it. You got to tweet when you kill them, just to let me know that I just killed a character.
I just killed somebody last night. Ah!
No. I had someone, a friend of ours from church, ask me to use his name in a book, and he said, it's totally fine. You can kill me. Just use my name in a book.
That's awesome.
I was like, okay. And what's funny is his real name, or like his name that everybody calls him, is a nickname. So his real name actually would work. So that's one thing that's really cool too. So anyway,
That's awesome.
Which brings me to my next thing. Next week we're talking about character names. Well, actually, next week is Labor Day weekend, so we may not be meeting next week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure we are either.
We'll discuss it, but the next hangout we'll do will be on character names, how you choose them, how you might change them in the middle of a book, all kinds of stuff. But I do have a challenge for y'all this week.
Bring it.
Okay. Obviously, in preparation for the character name hangout, I will want you to bring your favorite character names and that kind of thing. But that's easy. Like, you can do that easily. So my challenge to you is something that I actually wrote this afternoon and have been thinking about since midweek last week. I am going to be going on a daily social media sabbatical. And
You're
every
reading
day,
my mind.
I literally posted this today. I need accountability. Every day from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., I am no longer going to be on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any type of social media. I'm cutting it out. I'm only checking my email 3 times a day. And no television until after 6 p.m.
Woo!
Okay. Now, I'm doing this because I feel like that, first of all, it is like a black hole of timey-wimey suckage. Like, it just takes everything out of me, and then I look up, and it's been 30 minutes or it's been an hour. Then I'll get into writing, and I will look up, and my phone is, like, lit up or buzzing or whatever, and I feel like I have to answer it. So I just decided the best thing for me to do is to delete the Facebook app and the Twitter app off of my phone.
Oh my gosh, I totally did the same thing. That's so creepy.
It is. It's weird, but let me just tell you, I wrote about it on a blog post. I was going to share it after we got done tonight, and it's one of those things where I just feel like that it's consuming, and because I am so competitive and I want people to like me and, you know, all of that stuff that everybody feels, it is costing me, I think, some concentration and also some consistency in my writing. So I am not going to let the social media monster eat me alive anymore.
Yep, I agree with that.
So that's my Monday through Friday routine now.
I just have so much to do for work that I just am like, I don't have time to spend extra time on the internet when I need to be writing. And so I feel like I'll sit down and start doing emails, or I'll sit down and start just like looking on Pinterest or looking on Facebook and Twitter, and then an hour's passed, and that's an hour of time I could have been writing. And so I feel like I know how important social media is as an author, but I feel like even if I did it where I was just checking it like once or twice a day personally and didn't start really amping up my social media push until I was editing, at least, like going through my edits, then I would still be able to kind of promote and do things like that, because I just feel like something's got to give. Like, I've got to squeeze out as much time as I can to write, or else I'm not going to get it done, and that just kind of breaks my heart, and I really want to. So I was thinking about that, and I did that. I deleted a couple of like just superfluous apps. Why do I keep using that word? Extra apps, and then I put my social media folder on my phone on the second page so I can't see it. So even if I get alerts from it, I won't, like, because I was a little, I deleted Facebook and Twitter, but I was a little hesitant to delete Instagram because I don't know if you guys know this, but teenagers are all about the Instagram. And so it's kind of like the pulse of my daughter's world is on Instagram, and so I always follow everything that's happening on there. But I don't want to see when I have Instagram alerts, you know, until I'm ready to check it or I'm ready to do it. So I put it on the second page to kind of discipline myself and not open it up when I don't need to. So I'm there with you. I'm gonna try. And I don't watch TV anymore. Like, I don't have time. Like, I don't even sit down at the TV. And if I do, I have my computer on my lap, so I'm not even really watching it. But yeah. So
I'm right there with you, and I feel like that we'll see how this goes. Like when we come back, I'll be happy to give an idea of how it goes. One thing I did write is that it does, anytime you're seeking balance, there are always going to be adjustments. So whether I test this out and it works, or whether I test this out and it doesn't work, so I have to try something different, I think that the whole key here is that I'm making an effort, and
Right.
I'm hoping to see some results from that, at least
Right.
in my word count
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
my housework.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I'm there with you guys, not in the same way. I mean, I have been there. I think just where my life has been lately, I really have been MIA from most social media things. So I'm just starting to get back into some of that. But really, even that is limited. It's just one time a day, maybe a couple. Except for Instagram's easy for me to do while my daughter's doing something, so I'll do that once in a while and just check stuff. But I think for me, I'd say more has been reading. I've been using that as an escape and just to read and veg, because I don't watch TV either, really, except for when my husband and I are watching one show in a series, that we've been watching. So, and especially when I'm focused, when I'm getting back into writing, I don't read, or I use reading as a reward. And if I get so far, then I can just chill and read, or.
Well, and I love that. I like to read before I go to bed, and I like to use it as a reward. Like if I got higher than what my goal is on a word count for the week, then Friday, let's have a read day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I've been doing where if I get on the elliptical, I can read as long as I want, because that means I'll go longer on the elliptical. So I have my Kindle charged right by the elliptical. I'm like, if you get on there, you can read for an hour, and that would be okay. But you gotta be moving.
I have that rule too. Like when I'm on the treadmill, I can do whatever I want as far as watching a TV show or reading, but I have to be exercising.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I can't. So I'll be up at 1:30, so there's no way.
Well, we could the only other option I can think of is that we could all move to the country and have no internet, kind of like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, but you guys have to promise that none of your children are going to dress up in weird costumes and run around and scare people.
No, that's scary.
Oh my gosh, love that movie. It is one of my favorites.
Too. I love it, and it made me want to think about really giving all of that stuff up and just moving out somewhere. But then I thought, oh no, it might make my child want to dress up in crazy costumes and kill people. That would be bad.
Where the crazies are.
Oh. Okay, ladies. Well, so I guess that's it for me. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I think it was good.
Awesome. Well, then, to everyone out there watching, have a great week, and good luck with puzzling it all together, because I think we're all going to need a little bit of that luck. But we'll be back next week, or maybe the week after the holiday, and we'll be talking about character names. So, toodaloo!
Hey, bye!